Today is International Whistleblower Day, right? And it's also International Day of Public Service, celebrating public service. A couple of months back, was it last year or was it 2019 when this case was first highlighted of allegations of abuse of office and misappropriation of funds at the Maasai Mara University, and the person who spoke about this was not among the people who say, okay, don't show my face. He was like, all right, no, I'm coming out. I'm going to come out openly and say, I am the one who's saying this, and this is why I work. This is what I've gone through. This is what I have seen. This is what I've encountered. And this is where I've tried to raise the issues of concern. And I'd like this matter to be known to the entire public. And he used to work he's been working at the university, CPA Spencer Sankale. The case was taken up by investigative agencies. The case has also even been taken to, as far as, I think going to court. But the University Council has reportedly, recently, decided to conduct some investigation and come back to Mr. Sankale and told him, you don't need to keep working here. And so, as we look at Whistleblower Day, as we look at what happened with the Goldenberg whistleblower, as we look at what has happened to the other whistleblowers in this country, do we actually treat whistleblowers as people who have serious good intentions for the country? They mean so well for the country. They are such patriots that they want to come out and say, no, this what's happening here is wrong. Let's correct it. Or do we look at them as a nuisance? As people who just want to bring down governments or bring down administrations or bring down their bosses? How do we treat them?
It depends. Is this a private or public university?
Very public.
You can't get more public.
Can't get more public than Maasai Mara University.
And even if it was private,
Well,
but it's public.
it's public.
Yes.
So ni pesa.
I was just saying that.
Ni mali ya umma.
Yes.
You see, ni mali ya umma.
Yes, it is.
So if the board.
Even if it wasn't public,
Yeah, true,
right?
True.
There are shareholders, and then the shareholders have appointed a board, and the board has hired a CEO, and the CEO has hired management. Now, if an employee sees that something management is doing is wrong, should they not be raising that issue with the shareholders of the company or the board of the company? Should they be punished for raising issues that are happening in the organization? Especially those issues are not really towards what the organization is all about, which is making a return to them.
They've obviously turned around and they're victimizing the whistleblower, which is, indicative that the board, which is it's a very poor reflection on the board.
Yes.
Because then you...
What seems to be
why
implicit,
would they not want...
yes, what is implicit is that they may be complicit.
Yep.
Right.
You see, you ask yourself, the alternative, does this person just make this thing up? Did they just want to create a problem? But why, when they know full well what the ramifications would be? And why now? And why insist? And why say, I have the evidence, and here it is? And why is there no discussion on the details that this gentleman keeps bringing up? It reminds me of a gentleman who worked for the Kenya Airports Authority at the time when we had said no more airlines coming from the great country of China. Lo and behold, picture taken, an airline from that very country, whistleblower, spoke about it. Next day, lost job. Now, and you're thinking, wait. What did this person do that would warrant him losing the job? He merely stated, we've said this, but this is what's happening here. Now, on a larger scale, this thing looks like it is just, should we say, a storm in a teacup. It isn't. There is a law in the US that most people are not aware of, but every time you hear it happened in the Moi era, you had certain government officials who were banned from visiting the US. We've had, every once in a while, you hear a number of people, they are mentioned, and it's not just them plus their families. There are people who've complained about why are they bringing the wife and the children. That's the whole point. It's supposed to be impunitive. So you target people of high net worth who seem to have been involved in what amounts to corruption or corrupt act. The Magnitsky Act, signed by Obama in the year 2012. That was the whole purpose. You want to discourage people by ensuring that there is a law that will mark you. The moment you've been marked and there's evidence that you've been involved in this, you're not going to the US, you're not transacting anything. Stop. End of story for you. Now, that is an example. It took a long time from the year 2009 to 2012 for it to be enacted. But can you imagine the effect it has on people who are known to be perpetrators of such things? Now,
So are you implying that the board is hitting back for fear of the repercussions that will fall upon them? Or are they hitting back because their interests may be?
I'm saying that this particular board
Jeopardized.
does not seem to understand the possibility of the full ramifications of their act. They are still acting in the normal Kenyan understanding that because I'm in authority, I have
do as I
impunity.
wish.
And then this case has been in the public domain since 2019.
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
They would have tried to rectify things.
See, this is their way of trying to rectify things by getting rid of the individual. Are you not
The
seeing?
individual's causing the problem.
As far as
That
they're
only-
concerned, they're rectifying the situation.
They're rectifying the person.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Right.
This matter has been taken up by organizations such as Amnesty International, whose executive director, Irungu Houghton, joins us on the phone. And the whistleblower himself, Spencer Sankale, is also on the line. So let's just say good morning to both of you, gentlemen. Spencer, good morning to you, wherever you are. How are you?
Good morning to you. I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Asante sana Irungu. Good to see you again.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning,
Good
Irungu.
morning, Irungu.
Spencer, so just let's hear it from the horse's mouth. This letter that you received on the 17th of June from the University Council, and what has happened since the first time you brought this issue to the public in 2019. Just give us a start from the letter and then take us back to the steps that have been taken on you or in the pursuit of justice.
Okay, thank you. I received actually the letter on Thursday, and I was actually shocked by the allegation. But prior to that, since the Mara heist in 2019, I have been severally moved in different capacities. But more so, I've had to sit in the car park for the last 9 months, since 2020 September. I don't have an office, but I just sit on the car park, just reading my books, which is also a good thing. It emboldens and enlarges my broader view. Reading is healthy for the mind.
What do you mean no office? What happened? Were you told you don't have access to the office, or were your duties taken away and you're told the only duty you have is you come at the once a year? What led you to drive into work and just sit in the parking?
After the heist, of course, there was a bit of, I would say maybe isolation or something, but then come 2020 by September, I had resigned from an acting position, but after that I was given a letter saying that maybe I should wait further direction. So I had been going to work normally at 8, but I just sit in the parking and read my books.
Can you tell us a little bit more about this heist? What actually happened and what is it that you are highlighting?
Okay, during the heist and before that, there were a raft of issues that were happening that we realized, because I never did it alone. We had other people, goodwill, who were seeing that things were not working well for us, for both of us as individuals and for the institution. But the most traumatizing thing for me that I said maybe I've had enough, and maybe even whatever I had, because I believed it was sufficient. We had a lady friend who had a baby, and the baby was so young. She was born with complications of the heart. So NHF said they'll cater for the travel to India because it required the baby to be taken to India for specialized treatment. So she needed 2.5 million. NHIF took care of 1.5 we came together as friends, raised 500,000. But when now she needed the balance of 0.5 million, she did a letter to management, but it was rejected. She was told to refer to policy. So for me, that was the nail on the coffin, the last nail on the coffin, because I thought if the baby doesn't make it, then even if I'm 100 years, will I ever forgive myself? Because I knew what was happening. And mind you, on that day, when she's being told to refer to policy, somebody had already gotten like 4 million withdrawn. So that is what led me to say this is enough, and Mara Heist happened.
First of all, I think I would like to applaud, and I think most people applaud your courage in standing up, because I think there are many people in your situation. You have your own commitments, your own life to look after, and you've taken this courageous stand, and you've also been steadfast, including parking in the car. Complete courage, and well done for that. And I'm grateful to institutions like Amnesty and TI for standing with you. But what, we are sitting here thinking there are procedures that are supposed to be followed. And you're talking about huge amounts of money being withdrawn and decisions being taken. What would you say is at the center of this rot, and what do you hope to achieve by blowing the whistle?
For me, actually, I believe, first of all, whatever we were doing that job, and I insist because we were many, we were just doing our job. That is the normal job that every profession should uphold. This duty to patriotism, because now, if we all fear and we can see things, we don't have a medical cover, we see the bad roads, we see we don't have social protection, and we keep the OE mentality. So we really need to eliminate that fear and build confidence as we build partnerships, because the support mechanism is there, and I believe that if you do the right thing and you do your profession and your duty as enshrined in our constitution, and you add in a sense of patriotism, then I don't think I'm a superhuman. I'm just doing what is right and what needs to be done.
Spencer, what is your current situation with school, with the institution? Have you been relieved of your duties? Are you still continuing, or what exactly is happening now? That's the first part. And then a lot of the things that you reported as having happened at that time, to the best of your knowledge, are they still going on?
Well, from that day, I received a dismissal letter. So as of now, my legal team is working on it. But I received my dismissal letter from Thursday. And so to speak about duties, I think I've not had any duties since Mara Heist, because it has been a roller coaster of things, but we keep the faith, and I believe that we and I will help to inspire other people to come up, and other professions, because I believe this is just one accountant and we are 23,000 of us. So I believe even other professions, actually, they can, if they chipped in, then we will not be where we are currently.
As a CPK,
yes.
CPAK, yes. CPAK, you're part of the institute. Has the institute come to your support, and what has been the support of your family? Where do you get the courage to fight on?
I can tell you this: my professional body has been steadfast, has stood with me, and has really been very supportive. And together with Amnesty International Kenya and Transparency International, because even last year we had early this year, I think we had a campaign to encourage accountants to come up and raise issues with the Wapinduru campaign that had been very successful, and it has actually emboldened other accountants. As it is now, we believe some of them, even if they are not coming out as I did, they are really reporting malpractices, and something is happening. On the part of the family, I would say Amnesty International has really been very helpful to me and my nuclear family, and I can tell you I'm as safe as before. And as it is now, my professional body has also been defending me, and you can see even yesterday they came up and they issued a very strong joint statement, which I believe will go a long way in ensuring the safety and security of other whistleblowers like myself.
And let's bring in Irungu now at this point. So,
Yes.
the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya, Amnesty International Kenya, and Transparency International Kenya have been working together on this particular case of CPA Spencer Sankale's. Irungu, you have now even penned an open letter to the University Council. Just tell us the details. What are you telling the University Council? What have you seen that the University Council is doing? And from your from where you sit, even from the legal expertise that the three organizations now have, is the University Council performing an illegality by dismissing this gentleman?
First of all, let me just also, extend my sense of admiration for CFO Sankale and the other whistleblowers of Maasai Mara. Spencer was not the only whistleblower. There have been a number of them. Many of them chose to remain anonymous. But Spencer obviously has become the face not just of the scandal of Maasai Mara, but really the face of whistleblowing in this country. And it is for that reason that he is receiving a lot of support, whether it be from the University Students Association of the Maasai Mara University, who spoke yesterday, or the Kenya University's Lecturers Union, KWASU, that also spoke on this matter. We had an emergency meeting with the ISPAC leadership, the chairperson, and also the executive director of Transparency International Kenya, and we have committed to essentially follow this case to its conclusion. And specifically in the letter that was released to the University Council yesterday, we made three, demands. The first is that we said that from our understanding, and now that Sankale has legal counsel and very distinguished legal counsel, and they have, we will find out whether an illegality has been committed. But from what we have heard so far, he was not accorded a fair administrative hearing. And secondly, that as a state witness in a criminal case, this, in our view, could constitute intimidation of a state witness. So therefore, the law enforcement agencies, the criminal justice system, need to also rise and protect him at this time. And specifically, this is the National Police Service and the Director of Criminal Investigation, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution. But I think this matter now needs to be escalated to the footsteps of the Cabinet Secretary of Education, because ultimately our concern is how is it possible that a whistleblower who has been proven to be professional, has been proven to be patriotic in terms of exposing upwards of 200 million shillings that was stolen by public officials of the university, and of course that case is still under review, so therefore I'm not saying that they are guilty at the moment, but nevertheless I think the fact that this has moved to court should tell us something. That the minister needs to look into the conduct of the council, and should it be found that the internal audit that has been recently done implicates not just the council but the acting vice chancellor, then they should be the council should be disbanded and a new vice chancellor should be appointed who would essentially support the culture of integrity within that institution. We think this is no longer a matter just for Maasai Mara University. It is now a public interest matter, and therefore we will not, as the three agencies, allow this to essentially die down.
I'm listening to things that have come out even from the office of the prosecutor in this country, and it's oftentimes that if we can get information from Kenyans, even the EACC, if we can get information from Kenyans about things that are taking place of a criminal nature, then we are welcoming of such. But then we see actions like this taken against individuals, when they open their mouths to say that, look, there's something going wrong. CT's talked about the example that we heard from, Kenya Airports Authority and this gentleman who lost his job. Here is another one. What does this do then to the culture of people in the country who are saying, I know certain things are going on, but you know what? I don't want to lose my source of livelihood. Neither do I want to be victimized or threatened should anything come about as a result of this. Anybody else who then would have any kind of information in any other area today looks at things like this that are going on, is going to withhold that information. And what kind of culture then are we imbibing here?
No, Joe, it's a critical question you're asking. I mean, I think this is the dividing line between chaos or a country. Yeah? This is it. We know that for every, corruption scandal, at least 10 people will know that it's happening. And it only takes one person to become a state witness, only takes one person to become a whistleblower, and then the system has the chance to catch this. A year ago, we asked accountants, we did a joint survey with the ISPAC and Amnesty, and we asked a number of accountants several questions. And the opinion poll basically came back in very interesting terms. Let me just give you a couple of statistics. 51% of the accountants and the auditors that we surveyed said that they had had experiences of fraud in their workplace. 48% said that they have the skills and the knowledge to be able to blow the whistle and to essentially report fraudulent activity. But 50% of the same respondents said that they do not think that professionals should be held criminally liable. Let me give you one more. 30% of them said that bribery is a necessary transaction to be able to do business in this country. So I think what is really important for us to get is that, this is really an important conversation for the country, not just for the 23,000 auditors and accountants. That if we do not rise and become Spencer in our public spaces, whether it be public and private, and just a note on that one, because I think as we started this conversation, we made a distinction about corruption in public institutions and private institutions. I would completely agree. That Chapter 6, the leadership and integrity clause in our Constitution, was not written for state agencies. It was written for the entire nation. And therefore, we have to raise a nation that is able to take action. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that taking action means that you will be victimized. You can use any of the anonymous complaints and whistleblowing mechanisms that exist. Transparency have a number. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission have been working on these issues. Amnesty, we are increasingly beginning to link the issues of human rights violations, like was, I think, as Sankale was speaking about, in terms of the absence of vaccines in our hospitals, the absence of drugs in our clinics, and the absence of textbooks, or even in our homes, the absence of social protection for those who have lost their jobs from COVID as a result of corruption. And I think when a head of state says we are losing 2 billion shillings a day, we have to take this seriously. The reason why we are losing the capacity as a country to thrive and to keep everybody dignified is because we do not take enough action on this issue. The narrative, I think, that has been generated that whistleblowers die poor is in some degree true. We do have the case of Sankale, the patriot and nationalist, who basically exposed the Goldenberg scandal back in the 1990s. And of course, with limited support from Transparency International, he died really not recognized by the nation as a whole. But I also would remind the country that, there was a man called Jotham Mwaniki, who was a Kenyan National, I guess he was the Kenyan National Bureau of Statistics Secretary General during that same period. And this is a story I only learned after he died earlier this year. He was a statistician. And he chose not to falsify the report, the economic survey of that year, to essentially hide the fact that Kamlesh Patni, his associates, complete with a direct line into the office of the presidency, that they had essentially exported gold erroneously and essentially stolen something like 500 million shillings of public taxes and 10% of the gross domestic product. Now, Mwaniki went to, he went to his grave. His contract was not renewed. He was never taken to State House and given one of those awards and citations. But he is somebody whose name that we have to keep speaking of. And I believe today, Spencer Sankale is Mwaniki. He is Munyanke. And therefore, as Kenyans, we have to think about how do we, as people who believe that corruption is the single most danger to this state. It is a national security danger. How do we create a public defender's fund? And I'm glad to say that in the next few days, ISPAC, Transparency, and Amnesty will essentially announce a public defender's fund that will be available for people like Spencer Sankale and other whistleblowers, so that when they take action, they can be sure that their livelihood will be maintained, and then secondly, that they will be supported through the criminal processes that they have unleashed to protect this country.
And happy Whistleblower Day. And as we look back at what this day means, we are speaking with one whistleblower, CPA Spencer Sankale, who until recently was an employee of the Maasai Mara University. He's among those that came out to the public and said there's something that's happening at this institution that is not according to what the law says. And this has even ended up in court, where the former VC and others have been taken to court. However, Spencer himself has faced the wrath of the University Council, where he got terminated just the other day. And this has brought in institutions such as Transparency International Kenya, Amnesty International, and the professional body Institute of Public Accountants of Kenya, who are also raising this particular matter and taking up the matter of Spencer's. Joining us on the line also is Irungu Houghton, the Executive Director of Amnesty International Kenya. Irungu, before we took the break, you were just talking about what you're soon going to announce to the public, which is the Public Defenders Fund, and where you establish a mechanism for people who'd like to support persons such as Spencer Sankale. But then I look back at, in 2008, there was the enactment of a law on witness protection. And if this is a state witness in a case, to what extent does the law protect people like Sankale? And what else do they get apart from just protection? Do they also get the support of enjoying continued livelihoods or securing their job, that nothing can happen to their employment as long as they are still state witnesses?
Definitely, I think the constitutional vision, of the new constitution essentially provided for new laws related to anti-corruption, actions that would stop corruption. And the Witness Protection Act is one of those, and the Witness Protection Agency. I think there are a number of concerns with the existing system. First of all, that if you essentially blow the whistle on corruption prior to a criminal case starting, you are not eligible for witness protection because at that point you are a whistleblower, not a witness. You only get you only receive the protection of the Witness Protection Agency when the court case has actually started. So in the case of the Mara Heights, many of the whistleblowers did not have the protection of the state until they became witnesses in a criminal case, and then so a prosecution starts. And this is one of the biggest challenges, really, for fighting corruption, because in that period where you have essentially started the criminal justice system to work, you're not protected. And that is why it is important that civic organizations and the state look at the safety and protection of whistleblowers. And that is why a couple of members of parliament have 2 bills in parliament currently that have yet to be merged, that essentially will provide for protection for whistleblowers prior to them becoming witnesses. So I hope that kind of responds to your question.
You know, these cases of whistleblowing, one of the most amazing ones actually took place during a scandal that was known in this country as the Anglo leasing scandal. There was a gentleman by the name of Francis Lukurito who worked for the Central Bank of Kenya, and he was a superintendent. Now, part of his work had to do with just verifying export compensation forms. It was a CD3 form. One knew about it because it was in the papers for a long time. Now, he raised issues because he wasn't alone. Him and the department that he headed, they had come across forgeries. Now, this is a case that involved somebody by the name of Patni. And it involved very many people, from the person, the deputy governor of the Central Bank of Kenya, to the PS who was in that particular ministry. It went on. But if you look at the drama surrounding the life of this man, one of the things that the government of the day did, they accused him of being involved in the death of Masinde Muliro. Just for starters. And he was moved from one department, taken to jail, removed. He was actually being asked to talk about this same case 20 years later, when there was an inquiry into these affairs, and he spoke. But the net result was that he lost his job. They would try and there were letters indicating that he would be re-employed, removed again, meaning he went through an extremely difficult time. The sort of difficult time that anybody going through or anyone reading about would actually be deterred from whistleblowing. So we do have a history of people who've stood and actually said, you know, this is wrong, and they stand by it. And I think the good thing is that with the advent of our new constitution, the things that we actually have, we are in a far better position than we were in 1992 when Mr. Francis Lukurito faced his ordeal. Right now, we are in a far better position to actually talk truth to some of these injustices that we see happening.
Totally agree. And I'd like to add on, just by bringing up John Githongo's case, Anglo leasing. He blew the whistle. He's possibly one of the most visible because he was then in government, and he blew the whistle as a PS in ethics and anti-corruption. Had to flee the country because of threats on his life. He eventually then did come back, and the issue, I can't remember what happened in terms of the legal court process, but because I think there was lack of evidence, the case eventually got thrown out, no surprise there. But then what happened is the countersuit, after fleeing the country, being away for a time, coming back, getting on with his life, there was then a countersuit against him for defamation from one of those implicated, namely Chris Murungaru, arguing that he was, talking about defamation as though this case, anyway, without getting into the merits of that. And then the court ruled in favor of Chris Murungaru and slapped John Githongo with a fine of 27 million. And at the time when we came around as civil society to really just, challenge the justice and
the court ruling.
To challenge the ruling, we were then advised that this is one of the key strategies that rich individuals use to intimidate whistleblowers. Strategic litigation against public participation, SLAPs. And there was we had kind of a whole big discussion saying that Kenya's legal system works against whistleblowing because the use of strategic litigation is still too easy to shut it down. So yes, Walter is extremely courageous, and I think then the Amnesty and TI Kenya very insightful, because you need a public defenders fund that's controlled by non-state actors. You need to give that solidarity, and my question, Irungu, is how do we build this culture? Because we have these very courageous individuals, and well done on bringing it out. We need to keep talking about them. How do we build the culture if ISPAC, if the professionals themselves don't believe that professionals who commit fraud should be prosecuted? And if, the professionals themselves do not believe they need to whistleblow, how do we build the culture in a context of this kind of victimization of whistleblowers?
I think it's another great question. I mean, I think first of all, the court is an arena of contestation, right? So it is important as whistleblowers and the corrupt come before the court that they understand the legal framework. So making claims that cannot be substantiated in fact is always dangerous for everybody, because you will be slapped with a defamation charge. So, I mean, the good thing about accountants and auditors is that they speak in numbers, and numbers most times don't lie. So keeping it very close to what actually is happening rather than what we think is happening protects whistleblowers every time that they engage in this process. And it allows them to continue speaking truth, but at the same time not being, being gagged by court orders. ISPAC is very committed, and I was with the chairperson, George Mukua, yesterday, and a couple of council members and the executive director, and they are very, very clear that they are drawing a line and will provide training and support for all their accountants who wish to take a stand in line with their profession. And again, Spencer's point, he's not doing anything extraordinary. He is essentially just exercising the oath of his professional ethics. We've somehow forgotten that the reason you have accountants, even the word accountant comes from the word to account. It is their role to essentially safeguard and act as stewards, both for private institutions and for public institutions. The other point I think that's important to raise is that ISPAC have actually developed their own separate funds for support for accountants, and they are doing this. And I think this is a major step forward by the council. I just really applaud the leadership of ISPAC for doing this. But they are essentially saying to their members, go out and protect the money. There is no point being called a chartered public accountant or a FCPA if you are not upholding the integrity of our institutions. So they have made this a professional standard for themselves. And I think it is now really the challenge to the rest of us who are not accountants, who are not auditors, to just say that, we actually have to choose a country or chaos. We have to choose between essentially, a country that disintegrates without vaccines, without social protection, without, an NHIS that, if you can imagine that, this is the primary moment for the National Health Insurance Fund to protect Kenyans against COVID. And it is the one thing that they will not protect you against. And I think this is the time that we really have to say, no, we want a country that works. We want a country that protects us. And definitely, we don't want a country in which the government looks the other way as public resources are stolen. And I think the good thing that we've got to look forward to in the case of Spencer Sankale is that he has full cooperation of the Directorate of Criminal Investigation and the National Police Service and the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions and the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. And that is different. That is very different from the time, I think, of the Anglo-Leasing and the Goldenberg scandals that we all remember.
Spencer, if I come to you, CPA Spencer Sankale, your own experience since the Mara heist in 2019 and what you've gone through as the investigations commenced, as the case went to court, as you were being looked at as a whistleblower, as the institution was treating you as it was treating you, from all the things that you've learned, what are the things that you would like to highlight as things that need to be considered by government and by the society in protecting whistleblowers?
the very first thing that I would really like the society, especially because we talk of a social fabric, we really need to ensure that our national ethos and the moral fabric does not disintegrate. Because once it's gone, then rebuilding it back it will be a whole ball game altogether. So for me, especially from speaking from a societal point of view, we are all told as young children we are born free, but it's what that is implanted in us that will determine the kind of nation that we will have. Because sometimes if you look at whistleblowing from my own analysis from the societal point of view, why is it that if a whistleblower is saying that something is not happening in the right way, ideally, in an ideal society, that is the right thing to do. But it is inverted by the few who dine with the taxpayers or the public funds to mean that you should not be speaking, but which should not be the case. So from a societal point of view, we really need to ensure that our moral fabric remains intact as a nation. But speaking now from a government point of view and how the government agencies can help in to spruce up the issue for whistleblowing, I can tell you we have very good documentation internally in almost all government agencies. We have a whistleblower policy, but none of us who work in the public service maybe want to whistleblow because you are gagged with the Official Secrets Act and such acts that you are not supposed to speak or leak information to the public. But you see, some of the information is criminal in nature, and maybe even the people you are supposed to report to are not willing or don't have the capacity to ensure that things are done in the right manner. So I believe, apart from anonymity in reporting these issues, the government should also come, and more so the National Assembly should ensure that the whistleblower bill is passed, so that maybe we feel that we are protected when we are really trying to safeguard the public funds, because the public is not there.
Right.
This is an opportunity that we've been given, and it's an honor actually to serve in government. But you see, if you are given that honor and you don't meet the end of your bargain, then we are not really being patriotic.
And apart from being protected, Spencer, you started all of this, and I believe one of the things that you said previously was to stop the stealing of funds, to stop corruption. So apart from even being protected as a whistleblower, would you say that your desire is to see that this rampant thievery that we see starts to stop?
Yes, that would be the end game, because people really need to earn their daily bread in a honest manner, because the thuggery and the thieving, so to speak, is way out of the normal. Yes.
And as we look back at this day, Whistleblower Day, and wanting everybody here has basically come up to say, Spencer, what you're doing is what you've done. It speaks highly of the character that you have, the kind of person that you are. And very many people ought to emulate you in terms of just the courage, in terms of the resolve, in terms of just deciding that this is the right thing to do and I shall do nothing else but the right thing. I think we just want to say thank you very much and well done for this. We stand with Transparency International, Amnesty, ISPAC, and all the others who are coming in support of your particular cause. Anything that people who would like to support this particular cause, Irungu, how can they contribute to this? How can they come in to support you?
Thank you very much. It was great to hear the support from within the media and particularly the standard group for this, because I think it really is the dividing line between a country and chaos. So specifically, we would invite people to follow the hashtag for the moment, hash justice for CPA Sankale, and the 4 is a number. We're using it very actively on all the social media platforms. And to follow Amnesty Kenya, Transparency Kenya, and also ISPAC, where they will get more information on how they can very practically support the idea of a public defender's fund. As it is World Whistleblowers Day, I think we can be proud and confident that we too, as Kenyans, have whistleblowers that we can talk about. They are not just in other countries, but they are alive and well. And they are also among us as ancestors, those of those that have passed on. And I particularly want to, because I think it's really important to say their names so that you get a sense of some of the people that have been active. If you give me a minute, I'm just going to read out some of the names that come to my mind as people who have brought dignity to this country. People like David Munyanke, Joseph Maniki, Jacinta Mwatela from the Goldenberg scandal, John Gidongo from the Anglo-Leafing scandal, Evans Joroge, the Meru University Secretary General who lost his life, essentially demonstrating that the University of Meru was misappropriating, or the leadership of the university were misappropriating financing. John Grashu, the journalist who pointed out that in the parliamentary reporting, they had left out money that could not be accounted for within the Ministry of Interior. Edwin Uko, the immediate Auditor General Emeritus, who had no less than 15 attempts to have him removed before the end of his tenure, and he served with dignity. He served with an interest, with the public interest in mind, and is now retired. Hopefully, will take up another role soon.
Irungu, there are many.
But
There are many. We have 30 seconds to the end of the show, but thank you very much for acknowledging all those, and we want to acknowledge everybody else and all the other whistleblowers. Thank you for joining us today, Irungu Houghton, Executive Director, Amnesty International Kenya, and CPA Spencer Sankale, a whistleblower, a hero in this republic. Asanteni sana for joining us today, and happy Whistleblower Day.